Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a kind of Islamic reflection on my labour and delivery, and I'd like to share with you kind of 3 significant lessons that I feel like I kind of learnt or took from the whole experience. Pregnant or have had a baby yourself, then maybe you can identify with some of what I'm going to talk about. Whilst I was pregnant with Fatima, I feel like I invested every piece of me into preparing for her birth. I attended antenatal yoga, I had hypnobirthing classes, reflexology, I attended the appointments and preparation sessions at the hospital, and then I kind of really looked into pregnancy and childbirth from an Islamic perspective, and I read and recited or played the recommended du'as and surahs from the Quran. So I really feel like I gave so much of myself to kind of trying to find the best way or be as prepared as possible to bring Fatima into this world as gently and as naturally as I could. But what I learned is that no amount of preparation can ever prepare you for this day and for this moment in your life. And it was honestly so far from what I expected and wanted for it to be. And it was one of the hardest things, or if not the hardest thing I've ever had to endure in my life. But what I feel now is that some of the most profound lessons we can learn in life come from the biggest trials. I really feel like Fatima's birth has just taught me so much about my faith and my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's only now that I'm really realising exactly what lessons I have learned. So I guess the first lesson or question that came up in my mind is why we as human beings seek to have so much control over our lives. I planned and prepared for this day so much, but at the end of the day, this was a moment in my life which was decreed by Allah. It was decreed long before I was even conscious of it, and no matter what preparation I did, it was going to go the way it was written to go. And that's not to say that I shouldn't have done any planning or preparation, but I think that in the actual moment of childbirth, when I was in labour, I think I needed to have taken more comfort in the fact that Allah decreed this for me. He planned and is the best of planners. And this moment, this time in my life is going to go exactly as it's meant to go, and I need to trust. There were moments in the labour that were really stressful and really difficult. I was being asked to be induced when I didn't want to be. I had to think about whether to have an epidural. I had to think about the fact that the baby was at risk of infection. There were so many things that I suddenly felt really unprepared and really anxious, and immensely aware of the almighty responsibility of bringing a child into the world, and how desperately I wanted to do it gently, safely, and so that my little girl arrived in the best possible health. And suddenly you realise we can't control these situations, we can't control them, and it's sometimes about letting go and knowing that this is in the will of Allah, this is in the decree of Allah, and I cannot control this situation. Which leads me on to the second lesson. In difficult situations, in times of hardship, in times of physical, emotional, and mental pain, depend on no one but Allah. Surrender yourself to Allah. I had moments throughout my labour where there was tension, there were arguments, there were disappointments, there was stress, and there were times when I felt like the people who were there to support me and help me through were actually making things harder for me. And that's no disrespect to them, but in a sense, I was almost putting way too much expectation upon them to get me through. And it's not to say that I wasn't appreciative of them being there or that they did a terrible job, because they didn't, but I was looking for my support or I was looking for the way to get through this in the wrong place at particular moments. There are some times when you need someone to hold your hand, you need someone to rub your back, you need someone to tell you can do this. And there are other times when the support that you need has to go much higher and much beyond what any physical person can give to you. And it took me time in the labour process to actually arrive at that place where I suddenly knew that I needed to give this to Allah. A really good friend of mine, prior to me being in labour, had said to me that when she gave birth, she felt that she spent a lot of her labour fighting the pain, and that when she surrendered to the pain, things became a lot easier. And I definitely had a moment where I felt that I needed to surrender with the pain, but also surrender myself to Allah and just bring him back into my consciousness. You can take support from the people around you, but they can't do everything, and you need to go to the one who can. Allah was only going to bring me to what was best for me, and even if that meant enduring immense physical pain, it was going to bring what was best for me. There was a moment when I was in the operating theatre and I was sobbing to the anaesthetist, and I was saying, you know, everything's gone wrong, nothing went as I wanted it to go, I feel like the whole thing has been a mess, like, and here I am in theatre, and that was the last thing that I wanted. And he actually said to me that, you know, maybe the stress and the difficulty and the challenges of the birth would actually help me to kind of love my daughter even more. You know, he was like, she will be that much more special to you because of the struggles that you've gone through, and you will appreciate her health and her well-being so much more, knowing that it was strenuous to get her into this world safely. And in a sense, that was my kind of reminder and my message right there. How this birth was going to unfold was already written, and I couldn't control it, and there would be some deeper meaning, some hidden message, something that I may not even ever comprehend, but there will be a reason why it happened as it did. The third lesson is that this experience was not all about me, and it was going to have a profound effect on the other people around me. When a person is in distress or a moment of weakness or illness, it really brings about fear in other people, and it also brings with that fear a sense of massive compassion and care and love. In these challenging moments where your health and your well-being is at risk, you see the love and the care that other people have for you. There was a moment just before I was taken into theatre where my mum and my husband broke down on each other, and as the midwife wheeled me out, I remember looking back and seeing my husband cry on my mother's shoulder, and it was a really overwhelming moment, because I could see that they were going through a journey of their own. It's making me feel really tearful just thinking about it, but they were going through their own journey, and they were just so scared for me and for the baby, and it was a moment for them to really connect with each other. Catching a glimpse of that moment, it was like Allah brings these moments not only for them to realise how much a person means. I really feel like Allah brought me that moment to show me that I'm not alone. The whole experience overall has just reinforced to me the absolute power and control of Allah. And now when I say Alhamdulillah, I say it with such certainty and with a sense of thankfulness that I can't even put into words. My challenge now as a new mom is to remember and to cherish these lessons and try and apply them to my daily life. Any new mom will understand that it is not easy to stay focused on your deen when you have the ultimate distraction of a newborn baby. But what's really important to remember is that the pain of childbirth and the stress of childbirth, it doesn't prevent you from looking after and caring for your baby. The immense sleep deprivation doesn't prevent you from taking care of your baby during the day. So we need to find a way to apply this same level of devotion to the one who made this all possible. You keep your heart open. One thing is certain, and that is that Allah will fill you with the inspiration that you need exactly when you need it. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please do share with me in the comments below any of your own personal experiences or lessons that you learned from childbirth or any other significant life-changing situations. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, Salam Alaikum.